Hello, it's midweek. Welcome to Business Live. Coming up in this edition, Ghana Revenue Authority rakes in 440 million cedis from e-commerce in last 6 months.
VAT when you do Google transactions and things like that. And I mentioned that in the last 6 months, we have collected over 440 million from these e-commerce through the platform.
Stakeholders in mobile money transfer bring back calls for a further reduction in the electronic transaction levy to encourage digital payments.
Address the issue of e-levy rate. The government has listened, and then in February this year, I think they reduce it to 1%. But then, as I mentioned, there is still the need. There is still the need to, if we want digital adoption in Ghana, there is still the need to reduce it further.
Thanks so much for your company. I am Pius Kojo-Bakai. Look now at our stories. And the Ghana Revenue Authority collected about 440 million cedis from e-commerce business in the country since the introduction of taxes on their services in the latter part of 2022. According to the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Reverend Dr. Amishadai Owusu-Amoah, about 110 firms have registered on the portal and paying their taxes. He made this revelation to Joy Business after addressing the 11th Annual International Tax Conference in Accra.
This year's tax conference theme, Taxation and Economic Development, a review of Ghana's tax policy, was chosen to reflect the current state of the country's tax collection, which has been very low as compared to other countries. According to the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Reverend Amishadai Owusu-Amoah, the tax ratio is experiencing some astronomical growth as many businesses have been registered in the last few months. He further disclosed that since the launch of the tax on digital services, the country has raked in about 440 million cedis.
This portal, many online businesses have registered, and I'm sure some of you have come across now getting VAT when you do Google transactions and things like that. And I mentioned that in the last 6 months, we have collected over 440 million from these e-commerce through the platform. Now, most of these e-commerce platforms, they work through payment platforms in Ghana. When I say payment platforms, I'm referring to people like ZPay and things like that. These payment platforms are required to register with the central bank, and the central bank gives them certain things they have to satisfy in order for them to be able to process their transactions for the the entities who are doing the online transactions.
Speaking on behalf of the President of Ghana, Senior Presidential Advisor Yao Osafo-Maafo appealed to the Institute of Taxation Ghana to partner with the Ghana Education Service to formulate policies on tax education.
We are not asking you to pay something you haven't earned on, so that it works out well. I charge the Ghana Institute of Taxation to help fashion out a program that will help educate Ghanaians on taxation and the need to pay taxes. No country can prosper without taxes. We have to imbibe the spirit of taxation into our children for them to see the payment of tax as something positive, something they feel like doing as a matter of course. I therefore urge the Institute to work closely with the Ministry of Education on how basic tax education can be introduced in the curriculum of our educational system. And the earlier it is introduced on the ladder, the better.
President of the Institute, George Onyenikwetia, urged members to enhance their understanding on the country's tax laws and encourage voluntary payments. Eben Sabute's report for Joy Business.
Now, stakeholders within the fintech space are calling on the government for a further reduction in the electronic transaction levy to help expand the usage of digital payment in Ghana. The fintech players say, based on their research, the e-levy charges is discouraging a number of Ghanaians to pay for goods and services through electronic means. According to General Manager for Cellulant Ghana, Eric Quote, the development is likely to affect the financial sector of the economy. He was speaking at the Momo Stakeholder Forum.
The Momo Stakeholder Forum was to deliberate on how to address the barriers to adoption of digital payments in Ghana. Eric Cortes said government's agenda to drive digitization must be complemented with tax incentives to fintech players.
So, two main things, guys. What we need to do is, one, to address the issue of e-levy rate. The government has listened, and then in February this year, I think they reduce it to 1%. But then, as I mentioned, there is still the need. There is still the need to, if we want digital adoption in Ghana, there is still the need to reduce it further. And when this is done, you will see that many people, the adoption that we want, will be able to achieve it. Also, the MNOs, such as yourself, MML, you must be able to give some of us, the fintechs, competitive rates. Because Shabu is not here, I'm throwing that challenge to you, Sylvia, to pick this up for us. You know, just as I had mentioned, we have been supporting the drive for digitization. We are in places where ordinarily the banks may not go, but then we are driving. And if it becomes very expensive for us, then we will also, remember, any price that you are giving us, we are going to add on.
Head of Product and Service Mobile Money Limited MTN, Sylvia Otue-Champon, said her outfit will partner industry players to improve the space.
One thing that I took out from the key speakers is that it seemed like we were doing okay, but we've realized that telling me about fraud is different from actually experiencing it. And you realize that even people that are educated fall victim. You see, because of the craftiness of how the fraudsters are, they are also increasing and polishing their game. So they make it sound real. We have to keep on educating people, okay? We can't take that one out if we want to move fintech. And it's not peculiar to Ghana, even other African and European countries that are settling on digital, especially when you go to that Latin America side where they are making good progress on fintech, especially on wallet. These things do come up. So it is the exposure of some of these tricks, okay, like the sketch that we saw. If we can go down in different languages, it can go down to everybody.
The forum was under the theme addressing barriers to digital payment in Ghana.
And to one development story we are following up for you, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission has announced an increase in electricity and water tariffs by 4.22% and 1.18% respectively, effective 1st September. This comes on the back of a conclusion of regulatory process for the quarterly adjustment of tariff by the PURC. Now, the quarterly tariff review mechanism aims to track and incorporate changes in key factors used in determining natural gas, electricity and water tariffs. Let's get on Zoom and speak to President of the Ghana Hotels Association, Dr. Edward Akanyamike Jr. for more on this. Thank you so much, Dr. Akanyamike Jr., and good to know you are on with us. Now, first off, what is the situation with players in the industry you represent? Really, does this tariff increment affect your members?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Well, it will certainly affect our business if you look at the general picture, because we use electricity for all kinds of things, and those who also work for us in terms of vendors and then other operatives also use these utilities. So we are going to pay more, they will also be paying more, and they will also demand more with the services that they provide for us. So certainly the impact will be there. However, you know, there's a saying that to be forewarned for harm. So the hoteliers are aware of the quarterly adjustment, which PRC has made it abundantly clear. And we do know that these adjustments are never going to go down. It will always be an upward increment. So yes, to affect our business, but we will still have to ensure that we stay in business, and that will call for some adjustments. Unfortunately, our patrons or customers will have to be part of what measures we put in place to address the situation.
Were you consulted by the PURC before the adjustments, and really, what were your recommendations if indeed you were consulted?
Interestingly, we were not consulted, and I mean the Ghana Hotels Association was not consulted, at least at the national level. I'm not aware if there were some consultations in the regions, but my attention has not been drawn to it. And I don't want to think or believe that it is deliberate, because you are aware that we still have a pending issue with PURC with regards to that 167% increase in February. We sought the intervention of Ghana Tourism Authority, and they have on the road to PURC calling for a meeting. I understand that PURC said the date was not convenient, but since then they've not gotten back to them. It's been about 3 weeks. So as I speak to you now, we are planning a press conference on Tuesday, 29th August at the International Press Center, and we're also planning to undertake a protest march, peaceful one for that matter, from the press center to the PURC office. We want this issue resolved. PURC cannot brush this under the carpet. We want our public agencies to be responsible for their actions and their inactions as well. Because this increment, the 4.2 and 1.18, it made abundantly clear. We are okay with that. We've been forewarned. So we'll do what we need to do to keep our business going. But when you make such an announcement, can you imagine that with this announcement, then on 1st September, we are ahead to say 100% increase or 120% increase? That is the issue you are trying to resolve with PURC, and they cannot run away from this. I believe that they have to take up that responsibility and resolve it. Because what happened, and I keep on stressing this, that they have created some huge debt for hotels between the months of February, March, April, and May. And those debts are there. And Ghana Water Company continue to harass members with cutting their lines and stopping their water flows, and it's unacceptable. So I'm using your medium to bring the public's attention to that. We are not happy with this, and we are going to undertake a protest. Going by the Public Order Act, we have written to the police. We sent a letter last week. We have met that 5 days notice requirement, and that's exactly what we'll be doing. Invite us for that consultation, yeah.
From all indications, it appears there's going to be quarterly adjustments going forward. Looking at the trend at which we are seeing the increase, how do you intend to, sustain your operations?
Well, there are no things that to be done, and the hotels have their role to play in terms of trying as much as possible to keep an eye on every person that leaves the business in terms of disbursement, in terms of cost management, and so on. There are several ways that hotels, even staff rationalization, must be key in this, because we are getting to a point where teamwork is becoming very important, where multitasking is becoming very important, so that we reduce our budget on salary. So the hotels have a part. However, government also has a part to play, because with a situation like this, we have to look at other sources of these utilities with regards to solar. And I've always said that, you see, when we see such challenges confronting us, government will also have to be proactive in this. I have always said that we had this policy where when you generate extra power through solar, you are able to sell it back to the grid. And people were going into solar because of that policy. That policy has been changed now. Last 2 years or so, the Minister for Energy gave some assurance that they are thinking about that, of bringing that policy back. That will help us. Okay. Otherwise, we are going to strangle businesses into that collapse move. Okay. Again, when it comes to water, I believe that we have to look at other sources of water, of course, within the confines of the country's laws and regulations. Okay. So policy must come to play here, because the PURC certainly, and I understand that a bigger policy than even the PRC itself to ensure that there's some cost recovery, and then so it's something that will happen. It will continue to happen every quarter. Okay, if we don't adjust ourselves, we are going to be having blood pressure, which we don't need.
Okay.
So government will have to work with us, and our patrons also have to understand the situation we find ourselves. If you go to a hotel and there's been a slight adjustment in the risk, please remember that the system, the environment is changing.
I see. Quickly before you go, in recent times there have been issues with customer relations and hotel managers. How is the association working to address issues of misunderstanding between customers and hotel managers, and what are the avenues for reporting to the regulator or the association you represent to amicably address these issues?
I suspect you are making reference to a hotel in the eastern region, which
Exactly.
has been very fast.
Exactly.
Okay, Paris, let me put it this way, and we've been pushing for a certain policy, which is mandatory membership, because obviously that hotel in question is not part of our association. I don't know if it's part of the Ghana Progressive Hotels Association.
Okay.
Now, what it means is that we don't really have any authority or power to handle a situation like this. It still goes back to the Ghana Tourism Authority, which is a regulator. But because we are on the ground with hotels, okay, if every hotel is a member of an association, what it means that when there are issues like this, we will please go in to try to resolve the matter. I understand some court cases have even come out of this, which is, for me, so unnecessary. This thing could have been resolved without going to that extent. Okay, so Ghana Tourism Authority, they've come a long way. They are celebrating a year. This is the time to begin to shed off some of the responsibility to the trade associations in the tourism and hotel sector. So we can be dealing with issues like this. If you are a member of our association, we certainly would have stepped in to try and resolve the matter. And I'm sure they would have listened to reason to deal with it.
All right.
Allow it to go this far.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Edward Akanyamike Jr., for your time here on Business Live. You're still watching Business Live with me, Pius Kojo-Baka. There will be more after this break. And that's it for Business Live. I am Pius Kojo-Baka. See you tomorrow. Bye.